Hi, this is Liz Fennessy, the chair of the Machine Shop Village Neighborhood Conservation District Commission. I'm calling this meeting to order. We're conducting a remote meeting, have several members of the committee, plus the applicant for 4 High Street. I'm required to read 2 public notices. This is a continuation of a meeting that was held on May 11th. The first statement I need to read is at the start of any public meeting covered virtually, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Machine Shop Village Neighborhood Conservation District Commission, is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in this order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by watching on your television or by visiting northandovercam.org. This meeting is a continuation of the meeting that was started on March 11th, so I need to reread the part about the start of the public hearing. Note that for public hearings, the applicant and the public must be provided a means to participate in the virtual meeting in real, whoops, I didn't need to read that part. Sorry, pursuant to the Governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this public hearing of the North Andover Machine Shop Village Neighborhood Conservation District Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but the public can listen to this meeting in progress by accessing northandovercam.org. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments via email. The email address is lfennessy@northandovermass.gov, and I'll spell that LFENNESY@northandovermass.gov. Okay, so now we will get down to business. Where we left off last time at 6:50 was we had just been through the architect's presentation, and at that point, Harry, I believe you were in the process of asking some questions. So I would like to continue at that point, and I just want to remind folks that at every point in time, we need to be referring specifically to the plan, the page, and whatever specific item that we're looking at. Excuse me. So, Harry, do you want to continue? And I believe, and I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we are looking at the May 7th, 2020 document entitled Avalon North Andover Mills MSV presentation. Is that the correct document that the public and the commission should be reviewing?
That's the correct document.
Okay, thank you.
Liz, to that point, I mean, it's the pleasure of the commission, but we can do a quick few minutes just reorienting everyone to the site and then go back to where we left off last time, or we can just start right on Q&A. It's really your choice.
Would the committee like to have a 5-minute overview?
I have no problem with that.
Sure. Thank you.
Do we, Liz, do you want us to share our screen, or would you rather just do it by referring to specific plans?
If you were, last time sharing the screen didn't work, but I'm happy to try it again. But either way, we do have to make those references, so that would make it easy for the committee, if we can all look at the same document, but for the public's benefit, we do need to continue with the narrating where we are.
Okay. With that, Ed, I'll turn it over to you and you can walk us through if you want to try to share your screen.
Yes, does that work for everyone? I just hit share.
Yeah, this time it worked for me anyway.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I see it fine too.
Okay, great.
All right, great. Well, thanks everyone. Again, Ed Bradford from the architectural team. And like Dave said, I can just kind of hit the highlights. Right, we went through a kind of lengthy presentation last time, so maybe just focus a little bit on the highlights for maybe folks that didn't attend, or again, just to cover some of the kind of key points. So I can just cover a few slides, and the first that I'll start with is slide 2 of 36, and it shows proposed conditions. So this is showing, again, for context, our proposed site plan. So again, what you see is in the yellow boundary is the 9.5 acre parcel. And then we show in the red dashed boundary, the kind of northern portion of Machine Shop Village, and then a red shading that would highlight where you have the overlap, if you will, but between the 9.5 acre site in Machine Shop Village. And as we noted at the last hearing, there is about a half an acre in a triangle just over Building A, where there is a portion of the proposed Avalon North Andover Mills project within Machine Shop Village. So again, what is being proposed in 3 buildings is a 170 unit community with 85 units in each building. So 85 units in Building A, the building that is a good portion of it is within the Machine Shop Village district, is 4 stories. Building B, opposite, and as we noted, a site layout that is really informed by various site constraints, including an easement shown in blue running through the middle of the site, and then a wetland in the northern corner. So the building shapes are very much informed by those site constraints. But Building B, a 4-story building, similarly with 85 units, and then a small 1-story building, just about 5,000 square feet, is the amenity and leasing center. And these buildings together form what we think will be a really great interior courtyard for residents and their amenities. The position of the buildings is very much, as I noted last meeting, informed by the neighborhood context, and we think consistent with the Machine Shop Village design guidelines, compatible with existing buildings and the neighborhood character, and not only the character of the adjacent mills, but also the character and scale of the neighborhood. And it's a design that really evolved a lot, working with the planning board and the neighborhood and many others. That was kind of crafted, of course, for this site, with an emphasis on minimizing impacts to neighbors, but also being, we think, in its architecture, complementary to the mill district itself. I could skip ahead to a 3D view. This is page 12 of the exhibits, and it's titled Aerial Perspective, Proposed Design. So this gives a probably a little bit better kind of overall orientation of the project in view of the proposed design. Again, for orientation, High Street is to the left of the page with 50 High Street in the upper left-hand corner of the sheet. The upper right-hand corner are the Sutton Pond condominiums, and then the lower right-hand corner is the wetland area that that, of course, we are respecting the wetland buffer and setbacks from. And then High Street and the lower density homes on the lower part of the view here. On our proposed buildings again, Building A is the 4-story building closest to 50 High Street and Sutton Pond condominiums, and then B again, kind of bending about the wetland and its setbacks, and then the 1-story building closest to the low density neighborhood is the clubhouse. So again, as I noted, we think the size and shape of these buildings is very appropriate, kind of transitioning to the lower scale, and then again, proposed design of the building as you get a little bit closer to High Street and the mills, very much informed by the massing of and architecture of those buildings. And then concerning, we think an important view as it pertains to the district itself is slide 14. And that shows the view from High Street, November 2019. That was the time that we took the photograph, November 2019, to show a time in the season where there's less foliage on the trees to show the kind of condition where you'd get a clear view into the site. So what this shows is a view really from the kind of northern boundary of the district. As we noted last time, this is sort of about as far as you could walk up High Street before you would step out of the district, just beyond our vantage point in this photograph. So what you see to your left is 50 High Street and the West Mill. And then to your right, one of the 1-story buildings, I think it's 57 High Street, to the right of the East Mill. And you can see the view through to this happens to be Building A. So as I described in our last meeting, the concept for the architecture were these kind of solid brick masonry ends that are informed by the architecture of the mills, and making sure that perspective, or that vantage point, we think is complementary to the mills themselves. And then, as we noted, in between those bookends, a little bit more residential texture that we think is also appropriate for this context. So these kind of solid masonry end caps, you can see a flat roof, complementary to the mill architecture. But also we think with some opportunity for a little bit of contemporary expression. So as we noted last time, where the mills really have a kind of typical solid brick corner, you can see this corner that's visible from this vantage point, where the corner becomes a little bit more light, glassy and transparent, to just give that kind of contemporary expression. And then another key slide to probably finish on as this kind of summary, we also reviewed the proposed material palette
So
on
let's
slide.
just let people know what sheet you're on, please.
Yes,
Okay.
certainly.
Yeah.
So this is sheet 24, and it's called Material Palette Alternate 2. So as we noted, we prepared a couple alternates that really have similar material options, but a kind of different color palette. This is alternate 2, and here you can see again in a closer view, and this is one of those key elevations where the majority of this would be visible from that vantage point that we just showed, the brick end primarily that you could see in the view. And here's that corner that I highlighted from that vantage point. So again, you can see the solid brick ends that are most prominent from the vantage point from the district itself in High Street. And then in between those brick ends, this more residential texture that occurs again between the bookends. You can see it's important for this project to not only we think be complementary to the mills, but also to have a strong residential character. Of course, that's what this use is residential use. So you can see the introduction of balconies. The majority of units do have balconies, more residential scaled units, which is also, residential scaled windows, and some variation in the windows as well. Whereas the mills really have a more regular fenestration or distribution of the windows and the proposed design do adjust for what's happening, of course, within the building. I think those were kind of the key slides. There were many more that we had, but just wanted to touch on the highlights, if you will.
Thank you. What questions do committee members have?
Well, I can go, Liz. This is Harry. And I guess my first question is, has any consideration been done of the perspective from between 54 and 60 Water Street? Because between those two buildings is a clear view across to the facade. Yeah, if you want to bring up page 12 or page 11.
Let's orient ourselves on the plan first,
Okay.
if you don't mind,
Okay.
for those following along.
So I have up here slide 2 of 36 showing the proposed conditions,
Mhm.
where we do have Water Street. It does encompass Water Street in this.
Yes, and in your presentation that you provided to us, you were looking at public way from High Street.
Yeah.
But there is also a public view between 54 Water Street and 60 Water Street that looks right across.
So you're saying across Osgood Pond and the parking lot for Sutton Pond condominiums to the side of Building A?
Correct.
We didn't do a perspective from that vantage point specifically, but we can look. We did take some photos from the Sutton Pond parking lot that show that facade and show some of those perspectives.
Yeah, so in that perspective, and I would like to see us take a look at that perspective, because you can actually, all right, currently there is a little bit of foliage on the left of that opening, but one could actually see part of the Sutton Pond condo, which I'm curious as to, if we were to look at a November rendering when the foliage is less, what that
So
would
we're
look like.
now on which slide number is this? 20?
This is 20. Yes, it's titled "View from Sutton Pond Condominium Parking Lot, May 2019."
Okay, continue, Harry.
Yeah, and I don't, and I appreciate this particular perspective, which is a lot closer than what we would actually probably see from Water Street. But I think in our conversation we had at the last meeting, we were focused only on High Street, and I am a little concerned, a little bit, of wanting to understand what that would look like from Water Street as well, which in essence, what you're showing on slide 20 would be an exaggerated, probably view as well. So in this view, are we seeing between the two buildings on the left, are we seeing part of Sutton Pond there? Is that what we're looking at?
That's correct. Yeah, Sutton Pond is to the left.
Yeah.
Building A is in the foreground, and then you can see just a little bit of Building B beyond as well, in between the two.
Yeah.
So at this point, we're at pretty much at grade. We're looking across the parking lot. If we were standing on water, we would be at a higher grade and this would be more distant. But this is essentially what you would see,
Yeah.
just it would be much smaller.
Yeah, in the
I mean,
upper right, in the upper right hand corner, there's a key plan that kind of gives you that perspective. So the red arrow shows the vantage point from the parking lot. So yeah, Water Street is here. I'm sorry, can folks see my cursor? Water Street is, I don't know, I'd say, about 3 times the distance of approximately of the vantage point where the photo was taken.
Yeah.
yeah, although could you please go back to page 12 for me? Just take a look there. Yeah, so if
We're
you
now
look
on
at,
page 12, aerial perspective, proposed design.
yeah, so if you look at it in the upper right-hand corner there, right, there's this small, like there's this small circular grassy sort of, I want to say, sort of a hump of a grassy area, right? And then to the right of that is that little small utility building. You do see those two buildings. Yeah, right there.
Here, yeah.
You do see those two buildings from Water Street. I mean, I guess my concern is, and I, in one way, I appreciate the fact that, you know, your attempt of doing sort of irregular distribution of the windows, and I guess I'm wondering, you know, what the impact of that would be against sort of more of the regular layout of the facade against, you know, some of the older buildings of the mills. That's more my concern. Not the balconies, not you know, the brick anchors on both ends, but the actual facade itself. It is contemporary. I mean, you said that, and I'm wondering how congruent that is, you know, with the mill building. That's all.
What was the design basis behind doing that versus keeping a regular window opening?
Yeah, the main reason is simply a reflection of what's happening inside. So, you know, rather than a wide open mill, of course, as you might have had in the original mill structures, this is obviously a series of dwelling units. So the larger windows are typically, you know, for living rooms, and those are often located at the corners, or in a regular run. That would be where we'd have the wider windows, typically 3 foot wide windows for about 9 feet opening. And then the bedrooms are a little bit smaller for privacy and the like. So typically about a 6 foot wide opening. So it's simply a reflection of what's happening inside.
And I think from our perspective, when we approach this, and probably worthy of discussion, we thought that these buildings are new buildings, not, you know, renovations of existing buildings, and therefore we shouldn't try to do a replica. We should try to design something that looked appropriate for its surroundings and looks like it had been there, but wasn't trying to just replicate what these historic buildings that are obviously very nice had put in place.
Yeah, my concern is more that how congruent they are. I mean, when you're on Water Street, you're getting a feel of, you know, I'm not looking for an antique reproduction. I'm looking more for, you know, congruency between the neighborhood and the neighboring structures. I just feel that may be a little too contemporary in what it looks like against the backdrop if, you know, you're on Water Street, or if you're, you know, walking through, you know, High Street neighborhood.
We did review another apartment complex in this neighborhood that kept with a more regular window sequence and did not try to duplicate or replicate what was there, but did bring out some of those types of elements, keeping the regularity. So it simultaneously looks modern while, you know, capitalizing on some of the nice features in the neighborhood. I don't know, Harry, if that's what you're reacting to, but that's sort of what
That is what I'm reacting to. At least on that, at least on the facade that would be, you know, seen from the district. Yeah.
I mean, this product could be anywhere. That's, you know, it does fit in the, you know, in my opinion, it fits in the size and scale. Like when we look at this aerial photo, these buildings, the scale of them is similar to surrounding buildings. So that part is fine, but then when you look up close, this could be anywhere. It doesn't, you know, there's some colors you're suggesting and things like that, but it doesn't call out specific pieces of the history.
Mhm. So that's all I have for now, Liz.
Yeah, and I mean, in that regard, our focus really was, as I've noted, on the bookends, right? So these are the elements that are much closer to High Street, quite a bit closer than Water Street. I mean, I think there, you know, we did take some care to design an end that we think is very fitting and complementary to the mills that are along High Street. The texture in between, I guess, responds more, I would say, to the, you know, the residential buildings that are within the Machine Shop Village district, because of course they exist as well too, where you do have windows that are sized for the you know, the dwelling unit, and you do have more of a kind of clapboard texture and more residential scale. So that was really our approach to respond to both textures.
Could you go to, and I'm not sure which one, but one that does show the end on High Street? I do see your point on, you know, standing on water and looking off in the distance, these features and details are going to be less prominent and less impactful. I think I mean really something closer to the end of the series, where I think it's one of the ones where you talk about the materials and the colors, and yeah,
Sure.
we can, yeah, maybe these ones. So we are on sheet 24. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Material palette, alternate 2, page 24. Looking at this, there is a little more regularity, although, you know, the sizing is, even just how the windows are broken up, are different. This is still pretty modern looking.
Mhm.
Which we're not trying to get away from modern looking. We're trying to blend it into the neighborhood. Jan, Jerry, what are your thoughts or questions?
I go back and forth on this because of the fact they are new buildings. I totally get the respectfulness of trying to do the end caps in brick to keep it consistent with the mill buildings, but in regard to it being too contemporary, yeah, I go back and forth on this a lot. There is no perfect match for buildings that are over 150 years old. You're not going to get this thing to blend perfectly with it. I actually sway more to the side of, if it's going to be next to something historic, don't mock the historic. And that's my opinion. Be respectful of it, but don't mock it. There's no one in this area that's going to go through that area and look at those buildings and think that they were ever a part of the mill building area. So
No, I don't think that's what we're trying to achieve.
Mm-mm.
We wouldn't, and we've had discussions in the past about that, you know, new brick trying to look like old brick just looks terrible.
correct.
It's more, does this design, I guess the question that is, does this design truly pull the elements of the neighborhood in to its design, or is it just, you know, I'm questioning if it's a product that could be anywhere. And therefore not really focused on Machine Shop Village. I do have, actually, Jan, what are your thoughts?
Pretty much the same as yours.
Would you prefer to see something different, or do you, you know, there's complementary and
I don't have any suggestions on what different would be.
all right, with that, oh, sorry, did someone want to make a comment? Okay. I'm gonna go to the email. We have an email from 2 weeks ago, or whenever we last met on the 11th. The question, and I think this may have been answered in the context of the discussion, but I'm gonna just ask for it to be specifically answered. What is the material that is being used between the brick ends of the building? So I believe this was answered about the clapboards. We happen to be on a good drawing to answer this question again. Material palette alternate 2. Could you just go through the materials again that are between the brick ends of the buildings?
Yeah, sure. So, so there's a combination of materials. The base of the building that's shown in the darker gray color is a fiber cement siding, and that darker gray color runs up into the balcony niches. So that darker gray color is on the first floor, and then again, if you will, travels up into the balcony niches behind. The balconies themselves are darker aluminum in this black color that we think kind of lends an industrial character. Above the cement board base, there are 3 floors of cladding that are in this lighter gray vinyl siding. And then woven through all of that, including the brick, are accent panels that are in a cement board. There's a darker gray cement board panel that is at the base of the window in this more residential texture, but you can see it does run through the brick palette as well to tie the two together. And then you can see this red accent panel also is another element that ties the brick ends, bookends, if you will, to the more residential palette. Those are also a painted cement board material.
Thank you. Could you go back to the aerial photo we were looking at previously? So we're now on page 12, aerial perspective. There is another comment coming in through email. When we were on this before, we were talking about the size and scale of these buildings. A member of the public is saying that some people do not feel that this is fitting the size and the scale of the area. In comparison to the Sutton Pond buildings, it actually does seem similar to the scale. Very close to the scale, actually. So, but that, I just want to relay that comment from the public. while we're here.
Yeah, Liz, this is Dave. I mean, that was the main issue that we discussed for 6 or 9 months with the planning board regarding how these buildings fit in the neighborhood, and we made a lot of changes in order to make this plan possible. So
Yeah.
just leave it at that.
Yeah, and the purview of this committee is really about not the size. It is about the aesthetic and regard to how does it, fit into the neighborhood fabric from a design perspective, not from a massing scale. So we can limit our focus to that. So comments by the committee at this point, there are some reservations about the fit, and what do folks need to come to further discussion? What if we were to say we want to see a more regular window aperture, what would that take along the front side? Could you go back to the previous one that we were on, I think 24? This is the primary view for within the public way that someone in the public way would see. And that's where we're focused. As Harry points out, there's a distant view from a different public way. We're not trying to I'm just sorry, reading emails that are coming through, so excuse me. Not trying to replicate, but we're not trying to address issues that the public may see from a private location. It's really the distant view on Water Street and then this more near view, which is drawn back from the road. What else does the committee need to decide on something like this? This is somewhat regular. What are the spaces behind these windows?
Yeah, so as I said, they're pretty much a reflection of what is happening behind. So if you kind of run in within this residential texture, this is a living room with access to its adjacent deck, bedroom, and then the next unit over. Typically, if you see a 3-panel window, it's a living room. A 2-panel window, it's a bedroom. That's basically what you have.
And why aren't these windows, instead of different sizing for different rooms, why aren't they consistent?
I think, from a customer point of view, people want more natural light in their larger rooms, which is the living room. So in your bedroom, it's a smaller room, and there are some privacy implications and furniture layouts that we look at. And then for the living room, I mean, people want as much natural light as possible in their living room. That's really the reason that we have the 2 sizes. I don't know if we have more than 2 sizes. Maybe we have only a few sizes. So
Yeah, I think that's fair, Dave. Those are basically the 2 sizes. So in a way, that is fairly regular, but not completely regular. Those are the 2 sizes, and those are replicated throughout. The one adjustment you can see out at the corner is this is a again, unique perspective and vantage point. So that's, I think, the one location at these corners, and you can see it opposite here, where we put a very tall window. Again, just to highlight that focal point and have a little bit more glass at that corner. But otherwise, that is the size of the windows. They're basically 6 feet by 6 feet at the bedrooms and 9 feet by 6 feet at the living rooms.
And I think we would need to go look, I mean, to study this more, and make sort of a more robust presentation on it, I think we'd want to go look at, you know, the contextual buildings closest to us, 50 High, Sutton Pond, some of the others, and see what their window sizes are and how that relates to us. I think we would need to do some work on that. But which I think 50 High is newer, and Sutton Pond certainly newer.
I believe Sutton Pond was done in the 80s. I'm not, it was certainly done before 2000. And 50 High has been through some remodeling prior to the, I believe the windows were changed in the 80s or 90s.
Right.
What additional information do committee members want?
I can't think of anything else.
So this is Dave was just hearing from everyone. I think it's really about the windows is really what the main discussion point is. Everything else seems like it's okay.
Jerry? Harry?
I would agree with that. I think that the primary would be, you know, it would be helpful too. So, you know, if you were to help us with a sort of the rendition from Water Street, I mean, you know, if you look at that from the right, you know, you will see the whole length of the mill, the current mill building there. And so I guess it's how those two sort of, for me, sort of would blend, even though it's in a distance, and even though I think it is primarily the window, because I kind of want it, in my opinion, because you're on the edge of the machine shop village. I mean, the more it would disappear for me, the better. I'm not asking, my personal opinion, I wouldn't want to see it try to be a building that's in the machine shop. I just don't want it to compete with the machine shop village, if that makes sense, you know?
No, and I think I understand the point, and I think I'm looking at the Google image for Water Street now on my computer, and I think that you do see across the pond, but it's just moments between smaller buildings across the pond. Some of it is broken up by the granite building, which
Correct.
is and
correct, and you
so,
and you can see the homes behind. There were like, you can see the three homes that are further on beyond off of High Street there, beyond your parking lot, as well. I mean, if you go to the map, go back to that map of the whole site. I don't know if that was
number 2.
I think 2 for the people at home. And we look at that, it would be yeah, so there would be some of, let me look. I also from Water Street, we could probably see right now, currently, without any buildings there, several of the homes, or at least partials of the roof of the homes, that
But
are.
that's not, you know, we aren't, the scale and massing of these and the position of these buildings is fixed.
No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm giving that as a point of reference, just to say you can also see those, and that they're outside our district. So we can't. I was putting that as a point of reference to say, you know, those are also visible as well. So we're not comparing them to those. I'm not bringing those into the conversation. No. I'm just merely pointing out, though, that you can actually see that far back beyond there. So for me, it's okay. So I'm going to see that facade. I don't want it to compete, you know, or at least in a way, be something that is not noticeable against the backdrop. That's all for what we have.
And what were the addresses of the houses on Water Street that you?
Oh, I don't. Yeah. Oh, on Water Street. Yes. So it is. There's a section between 54 and 60. 60 being the mill building, right? That's been made into condominiums, and it has a little walkway that goes up into the side door.
Sure.
And then the house to the left facing the pond would be 54. Now there is a tree there and foliage there, which makes it more challenging right now at this point of the year. But you know, the owners of 60 Water Street, the mill, they've already taken one of the trees down, so they could take the other tree down as well. So, but I think there's enough there that you'll see the view.
So, Henry, what do you help me understand what you hope to gain by that perspective? Yeah, I'm asking just because we have that closer perspective from the Sutton Pond parking lot that shows the same thing, just closer. So I'm struggling to understand what this.
Well, my understanding was that, you know, that view is not public way.
Right.
So I was merely trying to provide the public way.
Yeah.
That's all. I wasn't trying to gain anything from that.
Okay. I didn't know if that was going to help
I was trying to raise it last time, but you know, the pushback was those weren't public ways. So I took a step back and said, okay, what is public way? And how could we, you know, what would that perspective look like? That's why, Liz, I was just, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I agree with what you say. I just, the argument could be made that that's not public way. The problem.
No, I mean, I think it's a good point because we were very focused on High Street and the point that this is also visible from water is notable. I'm just not sure if you're asking them to provide a perspective and whether that helps us make a vote or a recommendation.
Well, in some ways, yes. In some ways, yes. Only because you know, can you bring up that parking lot one again? And I'll maybe I can.
Bring up which exhibit?
Which page was the parking lot?
The view from the
Oh,
I'm sorry. Page what?
We'll find it.
It's one of these. Yeah.
It is on page 20, view from Sutton Pond condominium parking lot.
Yeah. So what you can't fully see from here is the you actually get a line of the mill building in the view from Water Street.
Mm-hmm.
You get a pronounced on your right hand side. You'll get a very pronounced view of that whole building of that facade, and just how we can just merge those two. So that I'm not sure whether they would compete or they wouldn't compete. I can't actually fully answer that. I assume that or I feel that there would be a little bit of the two competing in terms of what that looks like. That would be one of my big concerns, and I think primarily that's going to be driven by those windows. And you know, what options are there available to, you know, dampen that down, at least on that facade that's facing that direction. The rest of the structures, I mean, the side that we don't see, I don't have any comment to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my perspective.
So do we want to ask then for that perspective from High Street, a rendering?
Yeah, or at least consider that. Yeah, or
From
at least
Water Street, right, Liz?
yeah.
Sorry, water. Thank you.
Yeah, we can work on that. We'll work on that. And then the other thing I'm hearing is about the regularity of the windows. I do think that from our perspective, we'll look at how many we have. I think that it is important from our perspective to have two sizes, only because it does read as a residential building, and I think it's contextual to, you know, what it is. It reads as a residential building versus a, you know, converted mill building. But Ed, I think we can take a look at it and submit something, a study that talks about the window of regularity.
Sure.
Yeah, and is there also anything you can do? So in specific is like, and I'm not asking to go back to that page, but you know, it seems like these are 3-pane windows, right? Or at least that looks like how it's being divided out.
Yep.
And you know, is there any way, even if you kept the geometry of the window, the overall size of the window, but is there any other option other than how that pane configuration is? Because that pane configuration is also very modern. So maybe there's a way to, you know, modify that it would be more something that could fit in a little easier, if that makes sense.
So, yeah, for example, if you've got 6x6 and 9x6, you could have 2 windows that are 3x6 and then 3 windows that are 3x6. We are bumping up on our time. I'm going to include 2 comments right now from the public that are opinions on the design. One is a comment about vinyl siding not fitting into a historical neighborhood. That is perhaps, you know, that's an opinion that we do have a lot of vinyl siding in the neighborhood. There's also a recommendation that the building be all brick. I think that we've commented on that previously, and that mimicking versus complementing, you know, the design guidelines do not ask for replication, they ask for complementary design. We need to find a date to continue this meeting. So we will do that and then have our next meeting. So I am going to end the meeting now at 6:52 because they need to get over to the next meeting. We'll circle back with the next date and go from there.
One quick question, Liz. Are we still, is the town still keeping via virtual meetings, or do they have plans to open up?
I'm not aware of
Okay.
of going back to meetings. I mean, right now we're in the state's phase 1. We can't gather in certain sizes. I would also question whether we would ever do a meeting in a hybrid fashion, which at this point we would be doing, and whether we should, if we start a meeting virtually, we continue it. I don't know that answer.
Okay, thank you.
All right. How long, what's the soonest Avalon could get back to us? I want to be mindful of the time that we're spending. Could you get back to us in as soon as a week?
How much, if we wanted to submit something else, how many days in advance of the meeting do you need it?
2? Does 2 work for the committee?
Yeah, 48 hours is when we have to post the agenda.
Okay. And at that point, I think, is it safe to say, or does any committee member have an objection to a 48-hour review window?
No.
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 Okay.
So Liz, you're saying June 4th?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just throwing that out, and I'm not committing. We will determine offline what the date is, but I'm just asking what's the soonest you could meet, and then we will work on dates. And I realize I'm putting TAT on the hot seat.
Yeah.
That would be then June 2nd. I mean, we could look at the week of the 8th after.
I think we should look at the week of the 8th.
Okay. Okay, we really need to jump off now so that the next meeting has time to flip over.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Great. Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Bye.